But I mean, Aubrey said she's naive. The world would have chewed her up because she's got such a good heart, and she didn't necessarily always see the value of her as a woman. If it wasn't for both Aubrey and myself recognizing that in her.
Did you hear? So this is what my wife said to me. This young woman that she brought to my attention is so good-hearted that if the world was to get her, they would chew her up to the point that I can tell she would be unrecognizable. Listen to what she said, Joe.
I got my swag right, feeling crispy clean. Girl, I'm the flyest mother you've ever seen.
Welcome back to the Hear Me Out podcast in association with True Hall of Fame Build. I'm your host, Michael May, and today we're going to have man talk, right? Now, I know on my previous live stream of man talk, we touched on the topic of having multiple wives, polygyny, different things. But today, I think I want to get a little bit more serious and dive a little more deep into my actual belief. And I want you to hear this young woman right here speak of her and her husband. And shout out to Rob. This is his I'm reacting to one of his videos. Shout out to Rambo or the other men that believe in polygyny biblically. But before we dive right in, man, if you're new here to the channel, subscribe to the channel, like the video. Y'all guys already know. Today we're gonna be comfortable tonight. You know what I'm saying? We comfortable. I'm in the robe, you know what I'm saying? Got me a little bit of wine on deck. I'm just relaxing tonight. And I'm gonna take my time. This is gonna be a two-part because I want you guys to also understand how this also relates to me. Now, though they're gonna explain a lot of different things, this woman here is gonna do a great job explaining a lot of how she and her husband got into polygyny, different things of that nature. But I want to start with this. This is the key to this entire conversation, and I really truly need y'all to pay attention. It's my belief and it's my own understanding. I truly in my heart believe only a man of the Most High should be practicing polygyny. Polygyny is a man with multiple wives, and anything else isn't of God. I want to be clear. No woman having multiple husbands, and no, a man with multiple wives. And it is not a sin. You guys can argue all you want. I've already done videos proving this to you guys over and over again. But it's my true belief. Only a man that believes in Yahshua, a man of the Most High, a man who has that ability, a man who is in the Lord's presence, should be the only man practicing polygyny. And this is not going to be a popular take amongst a lot of people. And that's fine, because what I'm seeing in today's world is a lot of men want to practice polygyny, but they don't want the responsibility of polygyny. That's how you know when it's wrong. And this is the reason why I truly feel, and I believe in my heart, why most women have a hard time accepting polygyny. Because we got men out here that want to do it to be lustful. not because they're led by the Holy Spirit, not because they're led by the Most High, not because they feel in their heart that conviction that they're called to help another person. No, they're doing it because they want to fulfill the lust. But before I get ahead of myself, I want to let this lady cook, and then I'm gonna help you guys understand how this relates and pertains, how I can make it fit my life. Let's dive right in, because this lady here does an excellent job. Dr. I'm gonna call her Kayla Killian. I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna even try to pronounce her name, but let's keep rocking.
So let's just dive into it. The first question, I guess, that really kind of came to mind was, what initially opened your mind to polygyny as a biblical and practical model for marriage?
Phew. Well, I know if somebody has not watched our interviews with yourself, our previous one with both myself, Aubrey, and Jolene, as well as Pete Rambo's interview, we do kind of delve in that a little bit in the deeper sense of how we got to this. But the short answer is both my husband and I started discussing the topic of polygyny and kind of academically discussing it out of the Bible. We're a very academic family. He's a lawyer, I'm a physician, but we always joke, that's who we are in our day careers. At home, we're academic in all things. We discuss all things, and we debate it, and we take it apart and put it back together. So the topic of polygyny was discussed out of academic point of view first. We thought at that stage that if we can understand the benefits, the values, the disadvantages, the challenges, that we're going to be the ones that spearhead the academic understanding of it for the next generation. So we thought with our children, because we've got 4 children, but we also see society where it is at today and all of the challenges that marriages face, the challenges that families face. We thought if we can get some clinical pearls on how we see polygyny can be helpful in that sense, for the next generation, it should at least be a topic of discussion as well as an option of choosing how do you navigate this life. That's where.
Now I gotta stop it. I always tell you guys, one of the best benefits, one of the best traits, attributes, whatever you want to call it, I believe one of the best attributes about my relationship and the fact of how I deal with my wife, me being able to talk to her freely, is one of the best feelings on earth. To speak to a woman that you say you love with no fear, open-hearted, clear intent. Here's another thing, y'all, and she keeps on saying communication, right? I want you guys to understand. You do know that a lot of, and now I'm speaking to the fellas, I need you guys to learn how to communicate, and how to communicate in the proper process. Like, you have to learn how to speak to your woman A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Not A, G, B, D, C, E, I. No, you have to learn how to go in chronological order. You have to learn how to present something to someone the proper way. And I think a lot of you guys, this is a skill that you don't think that you need to possess. But when it comes, and I want you to understand, I'm not saying you're going to be successful all the time with women. I always tell you guys, you can only reach a person to their deepest or highest level of understanding. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, so if I know you're not capable of understanding what I'm saying, then maybe that's not the right person to be with. But now the problem with some of you guys is, I always tell you guys dive into dating somebody, which dating doesn't work, but you guys call it dating. So you guys like to date women. You don't ask no real serious questions. You don't dive deep. Y'all guys seen me do live streams on Instagram where I've asked men on live stream, I've asked women, have you ever asked any man you ever been with, do you have any mental health issues? Women are like, no, that's a problem. But I bet you, oh, you like Jordans? Me too. I have a collection. Y'all ask some of the dumbest. What is it gonna benefit me to ask a woman what's her favorite color? What benefit could I possibly get asking a woman what is her favorite color? What does she like to eat? You want to know what, fellas? It's an easy way to find that out without even having to ask her. Let her cook for you. Cause she gonna cook you her best meal. We're not getting into that right now. I just went over your head, but we're not. Let's stay focused, fellas. Communication is absolutely key, and some of you guys gotta really learn how to communicate in the proper order, chronological order, and you have to learn how to stand on business, mean what you say, and say what you mean. Let's keep going.
Where it started. Little
What year
did
was
we
that?
know, this was in 2017, 2018. So
Still never considering it for yourself, just kind of
not
purely
considering it for ourselves. No.
And you were married, right, at that point?
Yes, in 2017.
Now, for my ladies, pay attention, cause this is gonna go over your head. Pay attention, ladies. Pay attention.
We were married for about 12 years at that stage. So it's about a year, just after a year after we returned from South Africa to Canada for the second time. So we discussed and we said, well, we can see all of the benefits. But in 2018, it got to a point where Aubrey reached out to a gentleman that runs a biblical family group. And he started asking questions more on a personal level. And that's when I started wondering, is this something that he is considering as well? Then, as all polygynous families know, that it starts with a massive throwing out of your toys, out of your cot as a woman, because how can you consider this? And it comes with a list of 20, 30 things of, am I not enough? Do you want to replace me? All of the things that we can either get to, or those are the type of stuff we actually discuss in our women's coaching program as well. But it had to go through that point where I had to realize, well, it's easy understanding and discussing academic things, but put it in your own life, and it's a little bit of a different challenge because you need to look at yourself. Because what we need to realize when the topic of polygyny comes up for women, for men, it really is a discussion of, am I ready to take on the responsibility of a second wife? I can most of the time barely manage my one wife. Doesn't matter if she's a good wife or not. I'm barely holding water with just managing one. Do I actually want to take on a second wife? But for women, most
Now,
of the time, it's not even about that other woman. It's not even about your husband. It's all about how you feel about yourself. Do you actually not even value yourself in your individuality and what you bring to the relationship enough to not even see that it's impossible for you to be replaced by somebody else in the first place? Oof. But the second one is, and this is probably the one that's the most tough truth for women to handle, is we do not like losing control. We want to be in control of everything. And this includes being in control of our husbands.
Now, time out. Now, what I will say is this. We've had discussions, fellas. We've had these discussions. Oh, I could barely take care of one. Now, I want you guys to understand something, right? I always tell you guys, this is why I usually ask women when they're meeting a man. I always ask them. I ask, have you ever asked that man, who leads you? Who do you believe in? Do you believe in Satan? Do you believe in Allah? Do you believe in Buddha? Do you believe in the Prophet of Muhammad? Do you believe in Jesus Christ, Jesus the Christ? Or do you believe in, like, are you an atheist? Are you a Ziontologist? Whatever, zootologist, whatever that is. The problem is this. Most women, if they knew who is leading the man, they would know where that man is taking them. The problem is this: we live in a time where women don't think it's important enough to question a man. Cause, ready, hear me out. I always tell you fellas, when I was younger, yeah, obviously I got seen pictures of me. I was fit. Even though I'm gonna get back to that, but what I'm saying is, it's one thing to be physically appealing. Excuse me, but I know dudes who are physically appealing, but they lack the intellect. They lack the leadership skills. They lack the ability to cultivate. And the Bible specifically speaks on men. Listen, before a man had a woman, before God gave Adam Eve, he gave him different things. I always told you, he gave a man his presence. He gave his man the word. He gave his man a job. He had different things he had to acquire. Could he protect the garden? Could he cultivate the garden? Different things. Then, when all of this was accumulated from this one individual, he was put to rest. Then he was reached inside, a piece of him was taken out, and he woke up to his partner, his better half. Now I want you guys to understand. The problem in today's society is a woman would be a woman of God. I'm just going to use that as an example. But what happens is this: she tries to force that man that she desires into the presence of God and make him what she wants him to be. When this is the reason why most women, fellas, don't find success in relationships. Because correct me if I'm wrong, because it's in the Quran, it's in the Torah, it's in the Bible, it's in every other book that I've ever read. The man is told to wash his woman with the word. You're supposed to remove every spot, every blemish, and every wrinkle and present her to yourself. Shout out to Dr. What is his name? Miles Monroe. I got a chance to meet him when I was in high school. Hear me out. And I was there at a seminar when he was speaking, and he said this. He said, fellas, listen to me. There is no perfect woman. Fellas, when he said that, it made so much sense. Fellas, listen to me. When you meet a woman, no woman is ever gonna be what you want her to be. The woman that you have in your head, you're supposed to cultivate the woman that you have into the woman that you have in your head. Fellas, pay attention to what I'm about to say to you. Why do you think you always hear women say these terms when they leave a man? My whole identity was revolved around this guy. That's what's supposed to happen, because a woman is supposed to be so engulfed in you and what you're trying to accomplish that when people look at her, they're supposed to see you. When people see my wife, they're supposed to see me. And when they see me, they're supposed to see the God in me. Now, I will tell you guys this. Most women never really got the opportunity to really see. Most women, they think that could they go to church and they see all these guys claiming, you know what I'm saying that they men of God, and they whatever they want to say. But hear me out. Most women never even seen a man of God. Y'all don't hear me though. Hear me out. Fellas, listen to me. You are supposed to cultivate your woman. This is the reason why, and this is the reason why, like I said, women don't understand why every man they meet, they lose a piece of themselves. And this is why a woman is not designed to go from a man to 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 another man. I know I'm hurting some of y'all. It's cool. It's all right. No worries. No worries. I know what I'm saying is probably bothering some of you guys, but let's keep rocking and rolling, because I want you to hear what a real woman of God sounds like. Pay attention, because look what she just said. Look what this lady just said. Most women would push away a man that practices polygyny. Why? Fellas, listen to me. Women are naturally designed to be selfish. I don't want to get too far ahead, because I've always told you guys this. She's going to break it down even further. But women are naturally designed to be selfish. But it takes a strong man like myself, like some of you guys. It takes that leadership skills to show her, I need you to pipe down a little bit. Because, ready? I've always told you guys, my wife is irreplaceable. You want to know who did that? She did that. Because a woman that actually wants to live right in her life, she's going to listen to the leadership of her man. Y'all don't want to hear me, though. It's cool. Let's keep rocking and rolling. Maybe her voice sounds better to y'all.
That's the honest truth, unfortunately.
We are looking at each other because we just had this conversation the other day. It's like we said the exact same thing, and we had some situation that I don't want to go into right now, but it was like definitely like where I said like, yeah, it's like me trying to control the situation, and I can see, like, just like you said, like I can see how that happens. Like we want to control, and especially if you fear something, like if you fear being replaced, if you fear being not enough, if you fear
and let's be clear, fellas, this is the reason why you cannot be a man that is afraid of women. Fellas, your woman is naturally gonna want to try to control you. If you don't check it, you're gonna feel that. If you can't sit there and go, honey, sweetheart, listen to me. We not doing that over here. We not doing that over. Fellas, if you don't put a stop to it, it's only gonna get worse. And like, I'm happy that this lady here, that this is her man Rob right here. Like, and you're gonna see you're gonna see the back and forth between them, and you're gonna see how she's still battling a fight. She's still trying to control what this man of God is trying to achieve. And you can tell she's being kind of combative, though she's coming around, but she's nowhere near where this woman is supposed to be. Now, here's the thing, fellas. I know it kind of doesn't make any sense. Why, if your woman knows you practice it, why she would have a problem? Women are naturally jealous, y'all. It's naturally in them. It's their job to work on themselves. And you have to allow her the space to work on it by herself. But let's keep rocking and rolling, boy. Let's listen up.
all those things, then even more so, which is a natural reaction, but even more so you try to control.
Well, I'll just add one more thing before I turn it back over to you, Rojanay. It's like, I do think that part of that issue is because we come at it with a monogamy only mindset, right? So monogamy only is like a two-seater car. Okay. Yep. If you see another woman, it's like a guy pulling over, sees a girl, and you got to get out so she can get in. But that's really not the case under polygyny. It's like, no, we got a van, baby.
Exactly.
Like, you ain't never getting out.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
If I pull over, it's just because she needs a ride and she would, maybe add value to our trip.
Exactly.
So, but that's really the shift, is because it's the insecurity, it's the
Yep.
fear of losing the person, maybe him altogether, or at least his attention and resources.
Yep.
But
And I always say this, fellas. My wife can't lose me. So let me give you an example. I already asked permission so I can speak. So I'm gonna give you an example of something that me and my wife dealt with. So she met a lovely, lovely, lovely young woman, right? And when my wife presented the idea of joining the family, you know, there was back and forth conversations about it, this and that. But I want to get to the meat and potatoes. I was informed that the young lady said, "Oh, I wouldn't want anything to happen between you and your husband, XYZ." But what this young lady didn't understand is, you can't take from my wife what's already hers. I missed it. You see, fellas, because I know some of y'all are watching this with y'all wives. So if some of y'all wives is watching this, I want y'all to understand something. You planted the seeds with your husband. Mind you, this lady was with her husband for 12 years. And I always tell you guys, there should be a minimum of 5 years. And only a man of God, the Most High, should be practicing polygyny. But because it's going to go further on, but I always told you guys this. You're going to hear them say something that I've been telling you guys for over 2 years now. The first wife is supposed to be the reflection that the second, third, fourth wife, they're supposed to look at her and be like, do you see what's going on with her? Do you see how headstrong she is? Do you see the man that he is with her? Like, you could tell he don't play no games. The woman coming in is supposed to be able to look at your wife and see what she's gonna walk into. But how can you be a single man and say you practice polygyny but you don't have one wife? Y'all don't hear this. Hear me out. But did you hear what Rob said? I love his example. Or like his lady thought that it's a 2-seater car, and in order to help that woman, she has to get out to let the other woman in to take her where she gotta go. No, we got a van here. We got a truck. We got a 4-seater here, baby. You know what I'm saying? She could get in the back. We could take this ride. Maybe she could make the ride beneficial. And here's the thing, y'all. That's the part where I think most women, it's probably one of the hardest things. Women always feel, I'm gonna lose my man. I'm gonna lose him. Fellas, listen to what I'm about to say to you. The thing about polygyny is this. The women that you deal with are supposed to be your women. There is no, oh, when you get bored of them, you just send them back out there to find another man. These are your women to keep for a lifetime. It's your job. You are called to be this leader and the headship of these women for a lifetime. The problem is we live in a day and time where women are so accustomed to just hopping from man to man to man to man, from bed to bed to bed to bed. Here's the thing. I keep telling you guys, that's why the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life, especially as I got older, was no sex before marriage. That's the stupidest shit I ever heard in my life. Sex equals marriage. You're not supposed to touch that woman unless you're ready to take on the responsibility of that woman. Y'all don't hear me though. Y'all must have read the crayon version of the Bible or something. Because if I ain't mistaken, it's in the Quran, it's in the Torah, it's in the Bible. It's pretty much everywhere. When you touch a woman, that's your woman. The problem is this, like he said, y'all guys are so. Listen, do y'all guys know monogamy is a new concept? I think monogamy is barely over 100 years old. It's a new concept. It's a brand new concept. Y'all don't hear me though. Let's keep rocking and rolling though. That's the reason why so many women have a hard time to adjust. But you ready? Your grandmother and your great grandmother knew that granddaddy had that girl down the street. She knew that. But she didn't tell you because the world was gonna judge your granny. It's okay, let's keep rocking and rolling.
When you realize, wait a second, the Bible's clear about all that. You know, we have to go back to Exodus 21:10. I can't treat you any different. You know,
Yep.
you have to get everything you had before. And
Exactly.
then it's like, oh, wait a second, this is actually a lot more secure than monogamy because
Exactly.
we got room for, you know, there's no fear of us ever separating at all. So,
Exactly. And I think that's huge. Remember, fear is never a rational emotion. It's still a real emotion. We can't deny if fear is there. If fear is there, it is a massive umbrella that takes over most of your decisions, most of your reactions, and even most of your internal dialogue. But fear, most of the time, is, we always say, it's like a storm in a teacup. It feels like the world is coming to end if you lose control, and most of the time it isn't like that. There's very little real life, life and death situations on this earth. Coming from Africa, we have actually survived through some of those life and death experiences. So maybe that have made it easier to overcome, to say, what I think is going on at this moment is not here to kill me in the first place, and maybe it's not happening to me, it's actually happening for me. But it did not come easy. So Aubrey have spoken about this in some of his interviews. I'm not the easiest person to be convinced of something else. Most of the time I do think I'm right. Most of the time I think I can convince you of my opinion. So obviously he chose me in that way, otherwise he wouldn't have committed to me next year it will be 20 years ago. But it also came with challenges because I was so independent and I was in so much control that I had to go through a lot of growth in myself to realize, oh, everything is not about me. What do you mean? The whole world doesn't revolve around me as your wife. And I was a good wife in the sense of what people would see when they looked from outside. I was a good wife. I was faithful. I loved him as much as I knew I could. But it was all still about me at the end of the day. And I had to break away from that no, it's not even all about him. That's the misconception that people think when you go from monogamy to polygyny, that now all of a sudden it's reversed, where in monogamy it's all about the woman, now in polygyny it's all about the man. It couldn't be further from the truth at the end.
Please pay attention. Please pay attention, because she's speaking the facts and she's giving it from the first wife's perspective. That, fellas, when you hear a woman explain that she thought that everything was about her, it was about me and me and me, because monogamy teaches women it's all about your wife, and it's not. This is why women push for monogamy so hard, because everything is about them. Listen.
End of the day, it's about the legacy that you want to leave as a couple, like you two are wanting to do, and then you become a family, and that family just expands. But it's always about the long-term goal and the long-term legacy that you leave. All of that said, I had to go through so many truths about myself, but the only thing, and I spoke about this in the coaching program the only day, the only thing that turned me around is, in all honesty, when my Heavenly Father told me, I can help you through all of these emotional things, but at the end of the day, you need to realize, who are you to treat my son the way that you have treated him in the last year while you're going through this challenge? That's what turned me around. And it makes it very interesting. There's a verse in Proverbs. Proverbs 31 is a chapter that a lot of people quote, but there's one specific verse right at the end.
I do want to say this. that's the problem also with the people that they think they read the Bible. Oh, God said, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. Now, in case you guys don't understand, right? See, because a lot of y'all guys, the problem with y'all is this. Y'all reading your Bible in English, but in the original translation of the Bible, it means something totally different. The same way how the English Bible says, thou shalt not kill. That is a lie. When the original says, thou shalt not murder. Because in the Hebrew language, even in the Latin language, it's thou shalt not murder. I always tell you guys the funny story about the one time I went deer hunting with my fellas, and I wasn't aware. Like I was just there, pew pew pew. I was just being stupid, so I wasn't aware that when these guys was Muslim, my guys, and when they prayed over the kill, boom boom, they put it on the truck. When they got home and they started cooking up that meat, they put just one little piece of meat on the table, and they were like, "Hey, that's for you." I'm like, "I'm not eating that." They were like, "What you mean? You partaked in this kill, so you have to take a bite of this." And I'm like, "What?" And then that's when I started going down the rabbit hole. Why? Because that's when I started realizing that when they were breaking things down to me, like, fam, you're reading the book in the English translation, which is thou shalt not kill, and it's thou shalt not murder. But if it's for you to live, you can do it as long as you have to eat what you kill. Y'all don't want to hear me though. There are so many words, even like when they say a pastor's supposed to be. So what churches like to do is this. Oh, you see right here in the Bible, it says a pastor's supposed to be a husband of one wife, no blemishes, no this and that. But I'm not a pastor. I'm not a pastor. See, so what happens is people like to find little pieces in the book that's like, ha ha. But yeah, if you are a leader of the church, you're supposed to be spotless, blameless. And you want to know the real reason why they say that man is supposed to have only one wife? Because if he had multiple wives, he would be distracted from his purpose, which is pursuing God and bringing the word to the world. The way you can't do that with multiple wives, because even the Bible says it, right? When a man is married, his attention is supposed to be on his wife. Y'all don't hear me, man. Y'all don't hear me, man. Y'all don't hear me. Ready? I forgot who. I'm not gonna get into names, but there was a man in the Bible who he had no wife. If I ain't mistaken, I think it was Paul. No wife, no intercourse, no nothing. Why? And he said, "I wish all men would be like me, but because they won't, and because they're not." But even him, unless you're gonna completely devote your life straight to the Lord, when you have no distractions, your wife, you will be blessed. When you concentrate and focus on your home. Y'all don't hear me, man. Y'all don't want to hear this, man.
That I read, I think I've got it here somewhere.
Like Proverbs 31. They read one verse and they forget the rest of the verses. They forget the rest of the verses. Even when they say, for this, leave his mother and father, XYZ. But then there's verses in the Bible that specifically say, if this man was to take on another wife, if he has, there are stories in the Bible where God said, I would have given you more wives. Had you not done this, I would have blessed you with more wives. So how would it be a blessing if it was a sin? But then another thing is this, y'all. Y'all gotta stop letting churches do this to y'all. Y'all gotta stop letting churches say that's in the Old Testament. But ready, tithing. If we're not under law, we're under grace. But why are churches so bound to the tithing? First of all, they tithing wrong. I already told you that. But why are they so bound to the tithing? You gotta tithe to get this blessing. You gotta tithe. Ain't that in the Old Testament? Is that in the old? So you see how when it's beneficial for them, they want to go to the Old Testament. But then when you speak about polygyny, oh, that's Old Testament. We not under law no more. We under. So then why we tithing? Y'all don't hear me though. You know what it is? It's because you've been indoctrinated. You've been told one way, and that's all you know. You've been told when you get up in the morning to eat. The most important meal out of the day is breakfast in the morning, and even that is a lie. Come on, man. Y'all don't want to hear me. I don't want to hear me,
Where
though.
it says, charm is deceitful, and beauty is passing or fleeting. But a woman that has the fear of the Lord, she should be praised. And at the end of the day, that's the only thing to turn me around. And then it opened up, obviously, a whole different world that we can discuss on this interview as well.
That's amazing.
Hear me out. But did you hear what she said about her husband? Like, when she had her epiphany, when she had her aha moment, where she was like, I could only imagine God telling me, I know how you treating my son. I'm watching you. You don't think that I'm aware that I'm being watched on how I'm treating one of God's daughters, my wife? You don't think that I'm aware of that? You don't think that there's even times that I know I'm stepping out of bounds? Today, we went out to get furniture for the new house, XYZ, and my son was just off the vector. Listen, my son ain't never put me in such a bad mood. We went to a furniture store. He done broke something in the furniture store, y'all. I was so pissed. I was so done with the day. I didn't even want to eat. But I knew it had nothing to do with them. Because you know what? It all started when our first stop, we went to Sam's Club. And I'm sitting in the chair. Everything was good. I'm sitting in the chair. And now, when I drive up there, I already see the place is packed. So I'm already in a bad mood. I see all the cars. I do not like being in packed places. I don't like it. So I'm sitting here, and I'm like, damn. And I got my son. Damn. And I got my wife. Man. And I got my oldest son. Oh, my gosh. So I already had to prepare myself. So then what happened was this. I'm sitting on the chair to test it out, and my son turns around. The minute he got out, boy, he didn't stop. For the rest of the day, I was in a bad mood. And I came to both of them. I said, I apologize to y'all. He just spun me in a bad way. But thing is this, even something as simple as that, if you don't know how to handle things like that, you're not a leader. Y'all. I keep telling y'all, there's plenty of times me and my lady have arguments, we have fights, and she's dead ass wrong. And I'll come to her, listen, I'm sorry. It's my fault. I'll take it. Listen, forgive me. I'm not going to bed like that. Whatever. And she'll be dead wrong. Now, God is watching her too. So her day's gonna come when he's gonna be like, oh, so you wanted to play them games with my son, right? I got something for you. Like, and that's her own. She gotta carry her own cross. So do all of us. But let's keep rocking and rolling though. Cause this conversation is fantastic.
Yeah, that's wild that God stuck up for Aubrey like that. How dare you treat my son that way?
It was harsh words, but obviously I needed harsh words from a just God, and I didn't need
I
cuddling at all.
wonder, like, can you go into like a little bit more detail? Like, what were you doing though? Like how were you, and what did you change after that?
Pay attention.
Sana, I think the biggest thing is people have a misconception of submission in general, submission as a wife. And Aubrey married myself 20 years ago, not because I'm a yes sir, no sir type of person. He loved that in me. But it all comes down in the respect that you show that person. He wants me to disagree with him when I don't see the same viewpoint as he does. But I had a lot of love for him. I did not respect him as a person. And that's the point that I needed to understand. And also, when you, and this is more for the people that follow the biblical way of doing life, when you commit as a wife to a husband or as a woman to your man, you need to realize submission it's ultimate. It's not submissive when you like to be submissive and other days when you feel less like it. It is full submission in the sense of I'm handing over my life in your hands. And it takes so much faith and trust in that person and ultimately in our Heavenly Father. Because at the end of the day, all you can pray for is your husband or your man to look up and keep his eyes on his Father to guide him to make the fair decisions, the righteous decisions, act in justice, and you will be on the reception end of that righteousness that he's living in this life.
Time out. Now, if you heard what she just said what I said in the beginning, but in her way. So fellas, I owe anybody I've ever decided to deal with, I've always told them this. I say, it's a life for a life. So if I'm supposed to protect you with my life, if I'm supposed to lay down my life and die for you, not because of you, if I'm supposed to die for you, guess what? You're supposed to live for me. This is what the book tells us. This is why it says the woman is to submit to the husband, because it's supposed to be a willing surrender to her man. Listen, I trust you wholeheartedly. Because I can't be wishy-washy. Because ready, hear me out. No cap. There are some times where I may personally feel like my wife is all the way in, and sometimes she's like hesitant with certain things, especially now that we have a son. Like, she explained this to you, that a whole nother woman activates after a woman has a child, and you guys have to learn how to give grace for that. But hear me, I want you guys to understand, because if she's gonna half step and still expect me to be stoic and standing my ground for her, then I'm gonna say, who the hell do you think you are? Like, cause you're not above me. Cause last time I checked, I'm the head. I'm the HNIC. I'm the head. Like, if all this fails, it's gonna come back on me, not on you. So this is the reason why she's saying it, like, and I'm happy that she said it. She didn't respect her husband completely to the point where she surrendered over her life. And they've been together for 12 years prior to this. And she just got to the point where she fully surrendered to her husband. Why? I guarantee you, I can tell you what it was. She was a doctor. He's a lawyer. Two lives were busy. And whenever they had time to cross paths, that's when the little time that they had, that's when they were just doing this. They were just doing this. Versus saying, stop. We gotta deal with this. Anytime I feel like my wife is going a little off, I have to stop. Listen, stop. Do you see what's going on? Are you seeing it? And it's not too often, but every now and again, it's natural for a woman to fall back to her natural state. You have to just remind her. But it's also her job to remember why she chose you and why you chose her. Let's keep rocking and rolling.
But it takes faith. It takes so much faith and trust to hand that over to a person. And I've only done.
And as you can see, it takes faith. So clearly, you can only give your life to a man that's being led by the Lord, because you know where he's leading you. But if he's a drug dealer and he a hustler doing all this crazy nonsense, you already know where he's going to lead you. Let's keep rocking and rolling. You're going to be visiting that man every single week in Rikers or in Sing Sing. But let's keep going.
That in the last year. So we've been in a polygynous marriage for 5 years now, and I finally reached the point that I can say I 100% trust Aubrey with where he's taking our family. So even the topic of polygyny didn't necessarily get me to a point of having full respect and trust in him as the biblical headship of our family. Ooh. It came with self-awareness of where I was still trying to keep control of things out of a matter of fear and just pride and stubbornness. Some people have more pride and stubbornness than others.
Like she said, it took her herself. So now, a great example. This is the reason why when my wife met this young woman and she brought her to my attention, first of all, this young lady's accolades is crazy. She's in the service. I believe it's the Army. She's a nurse. She's young. She's not like tarnished. She's not ran through. I don't want to get ahead because she's going to speak about it, but I want you guys to understand something. For my wife to be comfortable to go, I think this person's going to be a fit, because I already like who she is. And if you could learn to like her and love her the way I love her, this would be a perfect fit. But now that's also my wife knowing how to step back, because the time is going to come where I'm like, I want to take her out to eat. I want to take her, me and her going to go out for the evening. We're going to go vice versa. Like, this is why they've been in a marriage for 5 years. But let's continue to let her cook. Watch this.
But it had to come to a point where I had to break all of those down to say, I fully trust you. And the irony of that is it's so freeing as a person when you're not holding into something that you're never supposed to hold on to.
Yep.
It allows your hands to be free to take on things that you're actually good with.
So good. It really is a perfect picture of our relationship with God, right? Because we're supposed to be in full surrender to him, letting him lead us. And that can be a process too, because you're learning to trust. But I think for women, the beauty of it is you get to choose who you give that trust to.
Right.
It's not like just, because it is an incredible amount of trust, especially when you add in polygyny.
Absolutely.
Because now the guy, you got to make sure that he's really doing this for the right reasons and he's not going to wreck everything. But once you make that decision, then you're right. It's full submission. It's not submission up until a point of when we, if I don't agree with you, I can still, or, if I don't feel like you're following God. No, it's full submission. You get to choose, but once you choose, it's up to him. If God tells him to take another wife, you don't really have a say in that. I'm sorry. I mean, as mean as that sounds,
exactly.
You don't have to marry that man, but if you did marry that man, that's between him and God. The mission comes from God to the man. And then the man pursues the mission. And if he can go further faster with 2 helpmates instead of 1, then he should do that.
Absolutely.
If God gives him, peace about that. But that's the.
And like, look what he said. If God gives that, there are some men that God is not going to put that on his heart. Now, we all know the story in the Bible where one of the kings saw the man's wife on the roof bathing or whatever the case may be, and he's like, wow, I want that. So he sent the man off to war to get killed deliberately so he could take on that man's wife. You feel what I'm saying? Mind you, that man was happy with just this one. That was his one. But because he deliberately stole this man, this is where the problem came. This is where the problem came. Now, some men are gonna just have one wife. Some men, they feel that calling, but like, look what he just said, fellas. Sometimes it may take two wives for you to get to where you got to get to. It may take that. It may take that. It just may take that. It just takes one. Some of you guys need to be alone until you get to where you need to be. Listen, man, let's keep rocking and rolling.
The way I feel, her and I had an interesting conversation about this too, because we talked about the trust and how freeing it is when you finally do turn it over. I mean, it's an incredibly vulnerable position for a woman to be in, but once you do give it over, the like how that's just such a natural fit and feeling for a woman. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So.
And yeah, like I said in the beginning, me being able to speak freely, like my kids even know. For me to speak freely is one of the best feelings in the world. I ain't gotta sit here and be hiding like some child. I'm a grown ass man. But it's one of the best feelings in the world that I can have somebody that I could speak to, and I don't gotta just say, no, listen, this is this. What we gonna do with this? Or this is this. They were like ready. Even me and my wife today, even over couches. I like this one. We saw this super butter, peanut butter / it looked like Reese's Pieces. This orange leather couch for our theater in our home. Butter soft Reese. I call it Reese's Pieces. It had the brown skin tone stitched with the orange, and she was like, "This is so beautiful." No. I'm like, "What do you mean no?" Listen, she said, she goes, and she got my face. She goes, "Don't look at me don't look at me with the stars in your eyes. Don't look at me like that." See, because I saw a different vision. She's like, "No, the theater's gonna be comfortable. We're gonna go comfy. That's the route that we're gonna go." And I said, "No problem. You got it. You got it." You understand what I'm saying? Like, but it's like how this lady said right here. You have to trust that your man is gonna know when it's actually beneficial for both parties. Let's keep going.
I had a lot of issues with this in the beginning, especially like it, and I still struggle with it sometimes. Like it's definitely like a back and forth thing, but like you said, it even took you 20 years. So
the process is never done, believe me, and it's not polygyny. It's because of just human dynamics.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Because, like,
you heard what she said. It's not because of polygyny. Hi, mamas. Huh? DJ? Okay, yeah, tell him he got something to take a nap. So, what happens is, it's not polygyny's fault why your woman is jealous. It's society. It's the way she was raised. It's the way her mother spoke about her father. It's the way, "Oh, I ain't letting no man take advantage of me." Like, so you fellas, listen to me. If you're not gonna be patient with your woman to break down those walls, don't even get into a relationship. But the problem is, you're gonna have a lot of guys wanting to practice polygamy, and they're gonna do it for all the wrong reasons, and all they're gonna do is further destroy women worse than what it already is. We have the real epidemic is all these single women having kids by 17 baby fathers, and now they expect men to come around and clean up the mess. That's crazy. That's crazy. Let's keep going though.
you said, like it's the you pick a man. Now I picked Rob, and I definitely I watched him, right? Like while we were dating, I watched him. I was like how is he acting? How is he towards me? How is he towards others? And like but it's still a lot of trust on my part.
How am I making decisions?
How you're making decisions, all that, yeah, absolutely. But it's still like you need to keep trusting, right? Because there's sometimes this fear in my head that says, but yeah, he's been good to you now, but what if this happens? And you need to remind yourself, like, no, like you need to like watch. I need to watch him and see how close he lives to God and stuff like that. And but I did find though, like there has been a couple of times where I really got back into this mindset, like I am just gonna fully. I like even I think it was the day before we got married. I literally said to him and said, here's everything. Like I'm giving it to you. Like, and you have to realize how vulnerable this is for me. Like how much, like I'm gonna trust. And he said, yeah, I know. Like, and I'm always gonna take care of you. So it's a lot of, it's a lot of fun. But I've noticed that the times that I did this, it feels so freeing. Because now I don't have to be in control. Because I can be in control.
Yeah.
But it's so exhausting too, because he's so much better at it than I am too. And I can almost feel it, like if I give it over, I'm like, it's almost like as if this like freedom and like clarity comes to me, and I'm like, okay, now I can just kind of relax and enjoy the ride.
There's a saying, pressure is made for shoulders, not for hips. But the problem is, like she said, a lot of women, they just want to be in control of everything. And for a woman to sit here and say like, cause there are some chicks out here, y'all, they'll be like, I love you, I love you, I love you. And then you're ready to go out. What you doing? Who you with? What time you gonna be? That's controlling, bro. That's controlling. And if women don't have that level of control over you, they spiral out of control. If she don't have that respect, that trust in your leadership, you got to get rid of her, yo.
And let him steer.
Exactly.
Right?
I think I saw this video online somewhere where somebody asked this lady, what do you bring? So this is for people that are not in relationship yet. And they asked her, as
crazy.
a woman, what do you bring to the table when a man sits across from you from the table? And she said, I don't bring anything to the table other than the ability to see what the table needs. And I think that was such a beautiful explanation of what a woman and a wife can be. But what I've realized as a now older, married for...
She said, I don't bring nothing to the table but the ability to see what the table needs. You see, I want you to understand that, fellas, listen to me. A woman that's flexible, you never get rid of her. Ladies, I want you to understand something. So hear me out. I need somewhere to show me in the Bible, and I'm speaking to the ladies now. Show me in the Bible where it says your happiness is what's important in a relationship. Your love and the way you're supposed to be feeling happy and love and bliss through the whole marriage, and that's what marriage is about. Because then I'm going to counsel you and say, I could show you a few verses where it speaks of marriage isn't about love. Love is the benefit after the duty. Marriage is duty. It's duty. This is what I gotta do. And the more I get this right, the more I'm gonna be loved. The same way I tell my lady all the time. The more she's wrong, the harder it's gonna be for me to be in love. Not saying she gets anything wrong. I'm just giving you an example. The more wrong a woman constantly is, it's gonna be harder for you to be in love as a man. Because it's going to distract you, because it's a constant battle. But let's keep rocking and rolling, because people don't understand that. For a woman to say, I don't bring anything to the table but the ability to adjust. Ready? I always tell you guys, one thing the Bible did promise us is things will always change. And the problem with some of you guys, y'all get comfortable and y'all don't expect things to get rough. I'm always prepared for things to get hard. In fact, I operate better in stress than I do in peace. So I'm working on that. I'm working on how to be more at peace. If everything is peaceful, I don't gotta be ready to rock and roll. That's me though. That's not on her. Cause she brings the peace as best as she can. And you heard what this lady said right here. She said, I tried to love my husband the best that I could. But let's keep going.
For a couple of years, we've been around the block for a while. What we end up doing when we're in that relationship, we as women, we tend to try to hold up that table. We think that table cannot stand with us holding onto it. And we're not supposed to hold onto that table. That's the man's responsibility. He builds that table with what God gives him. And if he is walking in righteousness, walking in trust and faith with his father, saying that you have to walk in the same relationship with him, he has to walk the similar one with his heavenly father, then that table is going to be stable. One leg is not going to be shorter than the other. But
you heard what she said. It's not my wife's job to feel like she has to, like she's a leg on the table. No. I am the table. Fellas, listen to me. For those who believe, for my believers, the Bible says a woman is a helpmate. If you're not pursuing something, if you're not growing something, if you're not chasing something, fellas, a woman cannot help you do nothing. You missed it. Fellas, a woman comes designed and built with everything you need for you to get to where you need to get to in life. But if you're doing nothing, she can't help you do nothing. It's not how she's built.
once you let go of that table, it frees your hands to actually see what that table needs. Yes, because we're very good about being, all women, it doesn't matter what your strengths are, we're good at seeing what is needed. But now it actually frees you to add to that table, rearrange what is on that table, go and get more if something is needed, take stuff off the table.
A great example, I always tell y'all, when I'm working, the way my wife, she takes my son away from me. Not saying like that, but like, she doesn't let him distract me. She comes in here, hey, you need coffee? Hey, you need something to drink? Do you need anything? Okay, this and that. Because she's not in my way. So if I'm doing something, if I wanted to be a garbage cleaner, going around washing and cleaning up all the garbages in all the neighborhoods for $20 a bucket, right? And I do this once a month. She's supposed to assist me in me trying to do that, me trying to pursue that career. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So if she's supposed to make sure that I become the best garbage cleaner on planet Earth. Baby, look, I found these scrubs. Look, this right here, you ain't even gotta work as hard. You spray this on, it's gonna clean the thing itself. You rinse it off, boom, boom, pour it out, next house. She's supposed to help me pursue what my mission is. Y'all don't hear me though. Let's keep going.
That's not needed. And a man is not supposed to be able to see all of those things. And that's where sometimes we like to be in control because we're really good at a lot of things.
Oof.
And it gets to a point that we resent the man for not doing all of those things that we do naturally so well.
Hold on. Did you hear what she just said? That sometimes a woman can naturally resent the man for not seeing the things that she naturally does so well. Fellas, your job is not to see everything that you need. That's what your woman's job is for. Like, look, you might need to do this. Look, you might need to do that. Look, you might need to do this. You might need to do that. XYZ. You might need to. But now what I'm saying to you is this. there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with her encouraging you to try to see something, but your wife can't hold you to doing something that, like, I would never expect my wife to protect me the way I protect her. There are just things that she just doesn't see. Like, there are times that I'm like, I'll put up someplace, we're gonna go eat somewhere, I'm like, not today. Oh, but I really wanted to. Not today. No problem. Keep rolling. Simple. Because she doesn't see what I see. And I can't fault her for not seeing something that she wasn't designed to see. I told y'all, my lady cleans all the houses. She'll get frustrated. Oh, you leaving this thing, you always leave your cups right here. So we have a counter. I just put counter. And she'll get frustrated. And I see, but at least I always keep it real with her. I always tell her, I go, I just bring it here and drop it here. I'm not intentionally trying to be disrespectful, but in my heart, in my mind, how my brain works is I gotta move on to the next thing. What's the next thing I gotta do to keep moving things forward and moving things along? But for her, the nurturing, the cleaning, the taking care is her side of things. Let's keep rocking and rolling. Y'all guys don't understand.
That it becomes a polarization in marriages as well. Unfortunately, and it comes once again from a lack of trust in that other person's abilities. If you do not even trust your husband to hold on or hold up that table or correct one of the table legs if it goes skew, then you really didn't choose very well from the beginning anyway. And to come back from your point of view, Sana, what people...
And I'm sorry to keep stopping it. That's another thing. I always tell y'all, if my lady has to always second guess all the decisions I make, then why the fuck is she with me? If your lady's gonna second guess every single thing that you do, why are you with her? You're supposed to be the leader. She's supposed to trust in where you're guiding. Ready? I'll give you a great example. The other day, so a while back, my son, he was running around playing. He hit his toe at the end of the couch, and his toe got real bloody. Whatever. We didn't touch it. We let the process naturally. We knew the nail was naturally gonna fall out. So the other day, the young lady that my wife introduced me to, she calls me. She goes, "I need you right now." She goes, "Look, his nail is falling off." So now the young lady that my wife brought, she's a nurse, and I already seen that though my son was dealing with something, her instinct automatically kicked in because that's her natural instinct. Like, baby, injury, I'm a nurse, get this, put that on it, clean it out, do this. It's a natural, it naturally happens. It's naturally gonna happen. She can't fight it. It's naturally gonna, fellas, hear me out. Have y'all ever seen an ugly dude, hear me out, that the minute women start to talk to that man and they see his leadership, they see his skills, they see how he is with people, he naturally becomes attractive because women are naturally attracted to masculine traits in a man. Leadership skills, people skills, protecting skills, cultivating skills. It's a natural thing. Let's keep rocking and rolling.
Don't always realize as a first wife. I know there's apparently blogs on first wife syndrome and all of the things that comes with it, but there is a certain type of person that when you know that polygyny is on the table, you as a first wife, you're still taking a risk with that man. He can be as honest and direct, and he can have integrity in public. You see him, as you said, you watched what Rob was before you joined his marriage, but you're still taking a risk because you have no idea what the future is going to look like with that man.
Right.
You have no idea what type of father he's going to be. So that is a massive step of faith. Where I think a second or third wife has less of a risk in that sense because she's got a history that she can look into and see what was the startup of that company, what it looked like, versus where it's now. And then it's easier for her to say, yes, I like where this is going and where it has come from. I can see how I can take it to that next level.
Now, this is big. Me and my wife always have this discussion, right? Because when a woman comes in, she gets to see how it started. Okay, they went through this trial and tribulation. They got through that. They've been through this. They went through that. Damn. So their success rate is just they batting 1,000 right now. Damn. They just because now the person that's coming in, her way is to say, I can see how I would be beneficial here. I can see. Ready? Now I'll give you an example. I told you guys, my lady is absolutely beautiful. When she gave birth to my beautiful boy, obviously she put on a little bit of weight. Natural for all women, right? We all know this. Now, the young woman that, like my wife talks about her like, yo, this girl is fucking a machine. I'm like, what you mean? She goes, this girl is a machine. Like, look at the body on this. Now, I didn't get a chance to really like look at it like that, but she's like, yo, the body on this girl, you could fucking throw a diamond, that's just gonna fucking jump off the, like, she's like, this chick is fit. See, that's where maybe I could even benefit. But my wife is like, I damn sure could benefit from this. Cause, oh girl, I'm picking you up, we going to the gym. There goes the sisterhood. There goes the sisterhood right there. But you ready? There are things that my wife, having more life experience, is gonna naturally give her. So the reciprocity between the sister wives is there. That's what you have to look for. See, because the problem is this. A lot of guys out here, they want to practice polygamy, but they doing it for lustful reasons. I want to sleep with multiple different women. But me, I'm like, how do I benefit? How would I benefit? How would I benefit? And it's crazy because when you hear your woman say, look, she's this, she's a nurse, she's this, she's young, she's this, bop, bop, beep, 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 bop, boop, boop, beep, beep. And I'm like, well, it's kind of hard to argue with somebody who got all they I's dotted and their T's crossed. It's kind of tough to put up a fight. Let's keep rocking and rolling, though. Let's keep rocking.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's a great point. People kind of, you hardly ever look at it. Like the second wife actually has more security because he can already see that he has been treating his first wife
Right.
well. But I thought about this a lot before.
Like she said, most women don't look at it like that. Like her coming in, she has more security because she's already had the opportunity to see what I'm already doing with my wife. You feel what I'm saying? So she has not an upper hand, but she has an advantage in the sense of, well, I already know if anything gets heated, I know how he's gonna respond because she already put me on to game. And yeah, as she'll learn me more and more, it is what it is. She'll learn my do's and my don'ts. You know what I'm saying? She'll learn when I'm watching my sports, you leave me the fuck alone. Like, she's gonna catch on slowly but surely. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather my wife interrupt me while I'm streaming than when I'm watching my games. Like yo, and it's like, I don't want to give it up. I want her to say, hold up.
Because a lot of my like friends or family or like people close to me, they kind of like, they said like, oh, this is very high risk, right? What you're doing, like you're marrying this man and he has all these ideas and that might like, you don't know how he's gonna treat you. Like he might have all this charm, because you hear stories all the time of women that get married and then within a month the guy changes. And I mean, there's all these horror stories.
Yep.
But the thing that kept to my mind was like, okay, yes, that is true, but it's also like you never know though. Like you can marry a guy under monogamy and he can cheat, and that happens all the time. Or he can do this, or he can do that, or he can die, or he can. I mean, there's so many stuff that you like. If you have to live under that premise, it's gonna be very hard for you because then you just don't know. I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah, one of the things that Sana said too is like it would be one thing if monogamy was this bed of roses, like 95% marriage success rate, most of the people are happy. No, monogamy only is an unmitigated disaster.
Right.
So for someone to try something that's a little bit not normal or off the beaten path, is that a bad thing? I mean, when you look at the shit show that monogamy is, you can't deny that it's a mess.
And I want to agree with that.
Now hold on. Now you heard what she just said. See, here's the crazy part. A woman, fellas, and listen to me. A woman would reject polygyny. What I don't understand is, but then you'll be with one man, break up, be with another man, break up, be with another man, break up, be with another man, and break up. You're sleeping with all these guys when you could have just been with this man, building this family with him and his wife. You're secure. You got covering, you got that protection, you get the level of love, somebody to always be there for you any time of the day. But women think that sleeping with all these different guys and monogamy is gonna be what it doesn't work. Because I already told you guys, women are naturally hypergamous. Men are naturally non-monogamous. It's in our nature. So fellas, if you're gonna accept the woman that women do want the best, ready? Like my wife, listen, hear me out. My wife is very smart, and she understands, and she's very tactical. My wife knows if anybody was to mess with her, they're in for a problem. Because not only are they in for a problem with me, my lady's family is no joke. Like, the men in her family, they don't play that. So now, not only am I going to be on your ass, but now you're going to have a shitstorm that follows what I'm going to put you through. But I want you guys to understand something, right? And a lot of women, the reason why monogamy doesn't work for them is because the men in their family are not vetting these men. They're not vetting these men. But listen, but if a woman was to join polygyny, the first wife already did the vetting. So now that concern is already out the window. When I'm out with both, I was out with both of them the other day. When they're with me, they're mine. I make sure both of them are good. You feel what I'm saying? But the problem is, society has tricked women into thinking that go out there, have your fun, live your life, travel the world, sleep with all these different kind of men, because when you turn 30, 40, that man is gonna be there for you. And we already see where that's led. Hear me out. Halle Berry was one of the most beautiful women at one point in time. Why is she struggling? Because when she was in her prime, she threw it away. Vivica A. Fox was a hottie in her prime, But now I gotta give her credit. At least she was honest enough to sit here and say she thought that she was hot shit. In her prime, she was hot. But women's prime is cut very short. So now when she turns 28, 30, 35, 40, now she's not getting the same response. So what ends up happening is now she falls by the wayside. Angelina Jolie fall by the wayside. The lady who was with the guy from the Pirates of the Caribbean, you see him now, his career is flourishing again, and she's out the window. Fellas, this is why I tell you guys, the older you get, if you take care of yourself, your prime starts at 35. Your prime starts at 35. A woman starts at 18 and it's over by the age of 25, 28. It's over. And we know this. This is how God designed it. Why? Because God gave women something called beauty. That's supposed to help them attract that man. And she's supposed to ride it out to the sunset with that man. The problem is, like I said today, you got women who are beautiful and they throw away their beauty, man to man to man to man to man to man. Now they realize they're tired of sleeping with all these different guys, and then they expect you to come clean up the mess. And then they tell you, I'm a woman of God, now I'm in church, so I'm gonna make you wait till we married to have sex with me. Gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. So all these guys done ran through you. You had all these one night stands, but now you want me to sit here and be the captain saver. Yeah, all right. You already know what you could do with that. Let's keep rocking and rolling though.
Rob, but I wanna define the concept of it should, and I know you're not saying that. I just want to make sure that the people listening to it, it's not monogamy or polygyny.
No.
But I think what we have learned in the process
Yep.
is if people understand true biblical headship and what a covenant between a man and a woman actually means, not the sense of what marriage has become in the worldly sense, in biblical as well as non-biblical secular views, the concepts and the principles that can be learned because of the topic of polygyny, that can actually be, I think, in a lot of sense, that can be like a boot camp that makes monogamy only. People that still choose monogamy only, it can save them from a lot of these challenges and heartaches. Because there's certain things that you have to understand as your role as a woman, as your responsibility as a man, when you open up the discussion of polygyny, that can be applied in monogamy only. Because one thing that we need to really kind of hammer down is not everybody is meant to live a life of polygyny.
Nope.
Not every man has
Very good
the
marriage.
ability or the capability to lead more than one wife or
Or
one
even leave one.
or exactly, a lot of them should never even marry and they
Right.
should just live their life in, obviously celibacy is not going to be for everybody, but at least just take control of your own life, but you shouldn't be in control of another woman's life.
I agree. I said this, there are some men that they shouldn't even think of marriage. You shouldn't even, because these guys are so destroyed emotionally, mentally, spiritually, they shouldn't even deal with women on any level. Like she said, some guys ain't gonna do celibacy, but at least give the women the opportunity to say, hey, look, I don't want anything serious. We're gonna enjoy each other for the time being, XYZ. There are some guys who shouldn't even touch marriage. 100%.
What about more than one or two or three? So it's definitely not for everybody.
Right.
The other thing as well is
That's why I always tell you guys, I don't encourage polygyny for everybody. For some men, they're gonna be called to do it, but for some, you guys need to stick by yourself, and for some, stick with your one. You understand what I'm saying? But this is why I say This should only be practiced by men of the Most High, the men who believe in Yahshua, the men who understand what the purpose of this being done is for. Because even the Bible says, and on this day, 7 women will flock to one man, saying, I will take care of my own food and my own raiment. Just give me your last name to remove my reproach. Now, what is that saying? Fellas, there are going to be some women out there that make money. There are going to be some women who got their own careers. There's going to be some women who got their own cars. But in the end, you're going to be as rare as gold, where women are going to come to you and say, can I be with you? Just to remove my reproach. Now, fellas, the Bible is very specific, because your women are supposed to be with you. Now, but there are going to be some women that, which is fair, and nothing wrong with it. Every woman deserves their own kitchen. Like my wife, she deserves her own kitchen. My second wife deserves her own kitchen. But nothing wrong with coming together. But if my wife decides to live in another place, as long as she understands, my job ain't to pay the rent there. My job is to make sure she has food and her clothes on her back. That is my responsibility as a man who is practicing polygyny. My job is to make sure. Why? Because if all my women are underneath me, then what we have should be good enough. Now, the day may come where it's an emergency, where she has to come and stay with us for a little bit. That's no problem. Our houses will always be open. But some women, they have, like this lady here. She's a nurse. She makes her own money. So maybe she wants her own space. It's for her to understand, my job ain't to take care of your rent. How these chicks out here, can you pay my bills? That ain't a man's job to pay your bills. It's your job to pay your bills, because you're an adult. But now, what I'm telling you guys is this. Your woman should never go hungry, and she should never go without clothes. You shouldn't be out there wearing freaking Louis Vuitton and your cologne is Givenchy, and she's out here, she rocking fucking Jean Paul Gaultier and fucking Cool Water. The fuck at it. See, you can't do that, nor can you diminish any one of your women. If my lady is wearing nice clothes, she gotta wear nice clothes. We got Beamers and all this, so we all, the standard of living has to apply to all. We're all here to take care of each other. But let's keep rocking and rolling. Listen up.
Monogamy, in the sense of what it can be out of a biblical point of view, can be a beautiful story. It can be a husband that loves his wife, a wife that's supportive of her husband, they raise children, and they lived a beautiful life. I would hope that they get to a point that the wife does not lose herself in trying to be everything and do everything, and that it's not just two parents that raise children, and by the end of their life, that's it. That's all of their story. That's what it ended up being. I think for people that understand the deeper value of polygyny, a lot of times it comes down to, we never want to stop growing. We never want to get to a point where we say we didn't reach that next point of finding out what is the depth of my value. Because all women think they know their value until you get married, and down the line, when you become a mother, and 20 years down the line as a wife of being married for more than 20 years, you really don't know your value until you dig down and really see what is the depth of you. And
now, fellas, what I always tell you guys, now for the ladies who are watching, I'm sorry, don't get offended. And for those guys who are watching this with your lady, make sure you cover her baby ears so she don't get emotional. But for the women who want to listen, ladies, listen to me, listen close. You may feel that you have a certain level of value, but if no man wants you, then you're delusional. Then that means that the value you put on yourself, nobody's taking account for. If nobody's buying what you're selling, you're not as valuable as you think you are. Now, let's be clear. Ladies, the man gives you your value. Let me give you an example. Beyonce's Beyonce. Cool. She's been Beyonce. You mean to tell me that she is not Queen Bee since she's been with Jay-Z, and she's been with Jay-Z since the age of 19? Jay-Z puts her at a whole nother status. Ready? Ladies, let me help you understand. I'll make it easy for you. If Jay-Z breaks up with Beyonce, or vice versa, the likelihood of Beyonce finding another Jay-Z before Jay-Z finds another Beyonce is slim to none. Jay-Z can replace Beyonce like that. But now, because Beyonce was with Jay-Z, she feels every man that she deals with has to be on Jay-Z's level or better. Ready? We all remember what happened to Steph Curry's wife. Remember? My husband gets all this attention from these women. I don't get no attention from men. Cause your husband's Steph Curry. Why would a man approach you and your husband is Steph Curry? Steph Curry can replace her in a minute, but she won't be able to replace Steph Curry. Because the value comes from the man. Not saying you're not valuable on your own, but the value that you get, this is what she's saying. Women always overvalue themselves until nobody wants them. You don't see all these older chicks, I'm a prize. If you're such a prize, why nobody's married you yet? I got mad guys wanting to be with me. No, you got mad guys wanting to fuck you. See, don't confuse. See, I'ma speak it raw. You got guys that want to hit. You don't got guys that want to marry you and take care of you and care for you and protect you. Don't confuse the two. And this is what most women go through. But let's keep rocking and rolling, because she's gonna cook. She ain't done.
One of the things that
Remember, I'm doing 2 parts to this. My bad. I know we're already on 1 hour and 30, but this is too good to just cut it right now.
Has really forced us to look and see how far can I grow in my personal integrity and virtue is the topic of polygyny. And we want to leave a legacy that surpasses the fact that I'm going to be alive maybe for another 40 years.
Right.
What we're building into the lives of our children is something that can affect their family, but also the community at large. So it answers a lot of bigger questions if we understand the principles, not just the fact that we're trying to make polygynists of everybody.
Right.
And I have no problem with monogamy. It's monogamy only. It's prescription monogamy. It's laws put around anything but monogamy, and this negative stigma that if you do anything, if you marry two, that you're full of lust or whatever other things they accuse people of. That's what I have a problem with.
Absolutely.
Most people probably would do monogamy. I definitely think there's many men that should not even have one wife, which actually supports polygyny, because there are men that are capable of protecting and providing for more than one, and then they should get more than one. Let the market dictate. It should be a free market. Let's not make this socialism. Everybody only gets one. Because then you got people that shouldn't even have one getting one, because there's a shortage of the good men. The good men can only cover one.
Exactly.
And
Right.
then they end up getting on dating apps and being unfaithful anyway. So it's like we're trying to control this natural human nature that God put inside of us, instead of just take your hands off the wheel. Let's go back to the biblical times, the original ways, the old ways. And people say you're twisting scripture. I'm like, you mean the same scripture that was written by men with multiple wives?
Yep.
Right.
The irony in that.
Yeah. So let me ask you this.
And it's sad that there is a woman right here who understands the scripture more than most women who claim to understand the scripture. Let's keep
I
going.
think this is a good. Actually, before I ask you this, I just want to do a quick shout out. We had a lot of people comment. Thank you for the comments. We have people coming in from all over. Mimi from Northern Michigan. Go with Jesus from California. Valentine, artist blacksmith from Michigan. Daddy Difference from Colorado. George Lopez from Orlando. Ryan Ridgely's here with us. Cyrus from Washington, D.C. Please keep the comments coming in. Feel free to ask questions. We may even take callers. If somebody wants to call in, drop a comment and let us know. Just say, I'd like to call in and ask Roshanae a question, and I may allow you to do that if we have time.
This is a nice comment.
Yeah,
It says
this one here?
Yeah, that one.
This is a nice comment. Submission, willing to follow someone who has a mission.
I love that.
Yeah, they call it that for a reason, I guess. So, what unique benefits have you experienced since entering into a relationship?
So obviously, I think we can break it down into personal benefits, family benefits, economic, but I think our story in the last 4 years have been so different than what I thought our life was going to be like. It's not even the polygyny topic. It's what happened in our life 4 years ago with the whole COVID debacle that we've been living through. For the people that don't know, I took a very public stand as an ER physician. I was on the front line with the whole COVID pandemic, but I took a very public stand in medical ethics and informed consent and autonomy and freedom of choice. So not very different than the topic we're actually discussing today. The one is about health, the one is about families, but it comes down to the same thing, standing up for a certain principle. And that did put me into a very public limelight and in a battle with my regulatory body. And I've been temporarily suspended for 3 years now, not being able to function as a physician.
She's been temporarily suspended for 3 years as a physician. Listen.
But because of that, obviously, we've had a lot of economic, financial challenges. We've had challenges in the sense of we became the enemy in an area that we were really looked up to say this is the couple, the power couple that came in, that was recruited from South Africa, working in the Emerge department. Her husband's a coach, that's a lawyer. So we were put into this false pedestal, and it came crashing down very quickly when we took a public stance. So because of that, our life has been disrupted in many ways.
So let's be clear. Remember, her husband's a lawyer, but because she took a medical stand against practices being done during that time, that time of the jab, they let her go.
What I can say the benefit of polygyny was, I really do not know how we would have survived the last 4 years if it wasn't for the fact that Jolene was part of our family.
Did you hear what she just listen?
So people need to realize we were all isolated as much as they could isolate us in the last 4 years, but we were isolated already because we were in another country, no family, everybody's back in South Africa. But it got to a point that it really didn't matter what raged out in the world, what allegations were said about me, what professional allegations were said out there. If I could come home to Aubrey and Jolene, it really didn't matter. So we were such a strong unit that it was unable to take us down. And I think that is sometimes a result of people that understand the benefits and value of having more than two people in a relationship, forming that family, that it scares the institutions.
Now, it scares the institutions. This is a fact. Now, you heard what she just said. When she lost her job, her sister wife said, "Don't worry about it. I got it. I got it till you get back on your feet. I got it." This is the benefit. Fellas, listen to me. Ladies, listen to me. If I'm making money, my wife is making money. My wife is making money. That's all of our money. So when she took a stand to better people's life, for medical practices that maybe she stood up for herself. She could afford to do the right thing because her sister wife was there to keep them afloat. And she said, I don't know how we would have got through those 4 years if she wasn't there. You see, now fellas, you know how many women would benefit from having a sister wife? Them two are not sleeping together. They are sisters, but they are my wives. Do you know the benefit that they would benefit if something was to happen and we could hold each other down? Let's keep going. Watch this.
Yes.
Because you are not under their control. You're not afraid of their threats. You're not afraid of their man-made doctrines. The only thing you fear is your Heavenly Father.
But did you hear what she said? She said she had no concerns. She had no worries. She goes, as long as I could come home to my husband and my other sister wife, I'm good. Life is good. Life is good. The problem is this. Women are so afraid of, oh, this is my man. First of all, fellas, I am no woman's man. You are my woman. This is another thing that y'all guys don't stand y'all ground on. See, cause you're not her man. She's your woman. I lost y'all. It's cool. Yeah, y'all don't. A lot of y'all guys ain't got the balls. It's cool. I understand. Let's keep going.
That's where it starts and that's where it ends. But the benefits in that regard, our children are always taken care of. We've got 4 children between the 3 of us. Not a single one of them, our oldest is 10 and our youngest is 3. Not a single one of them have spent a single day without any one of us 3. They've never been to daycare. They've never slept over in anybody's home, not even family outside of this unit of us 3. So it means we have not outsourced the care of our children to anybody.
A great example. Shout out to the big dog Tracy Morgan. So me and my wife, we were planning to go see Tracy in the stand-up comedy joint, right? Why? There goes the benefit. Hey, can you come stay over here tonight with us? Because we need you to watch the baby, because we have plans to go watch this comedy show. Of course I'm coming over. Of course. Cool. Vice versa. Ready? The other wife calls my wife over here. Hey, look, I'm a little down. XYZ, this and that, boom, boom. Hey, can we go out together and have a drink? Them two can go hang out and I have the kids. It may be that the other wife is like, she calls me like, I could really use your company tonight. No problem. Honey, I'm going over there for the evening, all right? Do you need anything? Everything in here is already covered? Cool, no problem. I'll see you in the morning or whatever the case. Because there's no lot. Everybody is supporting each other. Y'all don't understand this. Y'all don't understand this.
We were able to study. All 3 of us were still studying as adults, raising 4 children. So just the benefit there for somebody that actually takes academics serious, and we're never going to stop learning. We're geeks that way. There's a very personal benefit for us. Economically as well. Because I was the one that brought in the most money, people need to realize, as an emerge physician, I worked 8 shifts a month, 8 to 10 hour shifts a month. That was it. And I made a very good salary, good enough that we could live in whatever way we wanted.
Now, I want to say this to all of the fellas that feel like they need to have that pressure. I gotta make more money than my woman. See, that is society's pressure. Fellas, if a woman that loves you puts that pressure, you don't hear all these chicks, a man gotta make 100,000, he gotta make more money than me. This is why I said This is why most women are gonna die alone. Because women always want a man on their level or better. But you heard what she just said? She made the most money. She made the most money. She never downplayed nobody. She never downplayed her man. She never downplayed what he did. She never downplayed polygyny. So she's the breadwinner and she accepts polygyny. And you got these chicks out here like, I need my own man. But you got 5 kids by 36 baby daddies. Have a seat. Go sit your ass in the corner, you fool. You sound mad dumb. So fellas, hear me out. So this is not polyamory. Listen, she got 3 kids by 3 different baby daddies who are forever tied to her. Likelihood she probably still care about 2 of them. Most of the time they still sleeping with these guys. Huh? Pretty quiet. Pretty quiet. And she didn't require any of them to marry her, but she's requiring you to marry her. I wish you would.
And that came crashing down very quickly. But because we were 3 people at home, we could divide what we bring into our home as well without being dependent on anybody outside of that family unit. And then obviously the biblical, the spiritual growth, there is always a third person looking in as a witness and making sure that there's fairness between the other 2 parties. So there's it kind of goes around in circle. There's so many benefits to it, but at the end of the day, I would say the biggest beneficiaries of this is obviously the children.
Pay attention, y'all. Pay attention, cause you're gonna hear her say something that I've been telling you guys for over 5 years. On Instagram, everywhere I talk, I've been saying this for the longest, but I'm gonna let her say it first, and I'm gonna break this down.
Surrounded by a stable unit that absolutely takes care of them, doesn't outsource anything, then it's the women in that relationship. And lastly, believe it or not, although there's so much misconceptions out there, then it's the man that has the benefit. Because at the end of the day, he carries the biggest responsibility.
Yeah, that's something
I always tell you fellas and ladies, listen to me. If a man is practicing polygyny the right way, the benefit predominantly goes to the women and the children. They get the benefit first. I've been told you this. If a man is practicing polygyny the correct way, the benefit goes to the women and to the children. That's how you'll know. Ready? Imagine this. Ready? Look, my wife, the lady she brought to my attention, she's a nurse. She's always working ridiculous hours. Who's to say now she doesn't have her, now she has her place, but we went food shopping. Now we're getting food for her. Now my wife has the keys to my wife's house. Now she can go in, put the fridge up, put everything where it belongs, and leaves. So now when she goes home, she has no concerns. There's benefits, but if a man is practicing polygyny the right way, the benefit goes to the women and to the children first. Listen.
Aubrey has said many times that many uninformed men think about polygyny and think it's like, oh, this is a dream. But many uninformed women think it's a nightmare.
Absolutely.
But many informed women see, that this is a pretty good deal, and many informed men see this is actually a lot of responsibility.
Absolutely.
Did you hear what they said? A man who's uninformed about polygyny is gonna be like, yo, this is cool, this is mad fun, this is fun. 2 women, oh my gosh. And a woman looks at it like this is a nightmare. But a woman who was informed is like, shit, I see the benefit of having a sister wife. Because if something was to happen to one of the wives, the other wife is gonna help out to make sure that she's good, vice versa. But a man that really practices polygyny the right way, he's gonna be like, this is a lot of responsibility. Y'all don't hear me though.
You've hit it right on the nail, for sure.
No, I totally see it that way.
Yeah.
If people just wanted to have sex, why would I get married? Why marry two women if I can have sex with dozens?
Right.
I mean,
There's way easier ways of fulfilling sexual desires than taking on another woman
Yeah.
and taking care of her for the rest of your life, for sure.
Yeah.
No offense. Shout out to the big dog, Coach Greg Adams. You see, he got free agent lifestyle. He doesn't believe in marriage. He doesn't want to cohabitate nothing with no woman. That's his prerogative. But a woman, there is so many easier ways. You could tell a chick, yo, look, we're going to hang out. We're going to have our fun. We're going to do what we do. I don't want nothing serious. As long as you understand that when you want to go, you go. When you want to come, you come. No problem. No, I'm saying it is what it is. Why would I want to take on the responsibility of another woman if I wasn't serious? This is the problem, y'all. But listen.
Yeah, and I mean, novelty also wears off at some point.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
So I want to talk about your case, not yet though, but I want to drop, if anybody would like to support the Killians. So
definitely
we're
want
going
to
to get more
support
into
the
this
Killians.
later in the conversation, but Dr. Killian, Dr. Rogenet, was out of work for, 2 years you haven't been able to practice medicine?
It's now in December of last year, it was 3 years. Temporary
years.
suspension for 3 years. Yep.
3 years. And I know that it must have been incredibly difficult financially. Aubrey shared a little bit with me. So we started a GoFundMe just to support them because she really, we can get more into why that happened, but it was really to protect patients' rights during COVID and, to avoid help people navigate their way through some of the craziness that was happening up in Canada.
You see, and I would support them just because she was standing up for her patients. So it wasn't like she was doing something foul and she got suspended, temporary suspended, whatever the case. But let's keep listening.
And she basically lost her job, at least temporarily, for it. So if you'd like to support them, maybe redirect part of your tithes and offerings to them. I know they would greatly appreciate it. And,
Right.
They're just a great family all the way around. And just how I've never heard Aubrey ever complain about it. He's always so positive and so humble and hard worker and a badass. I mean, he could literally just kick all of our asses and he never acts like a tough guy. And I don't know, I just love your husband. But all right,
I kind of love him too. Yeah.
Now, I would say this. Ready? Like how Rob said, if you want to send some of your tithing instead of send it to them. Hear me out, y'all. I look for a reason to tithe. Ready? Hear me out. Some of y'all may be like, y'all may see a homeless person in the street. I ain't helping them. He gonna use it for drugs. Not all of them need it for drugs, y'all. Hear me. If it's in my heart and God tells me, that one right there, I give. I don't care what they do with it, because it isn't about what they do with it. Maybe who's to say? Maybe I gave that person $10 and now they're gonna go use them drugs, and something happens in the morning and it wakes them up and it changes their life and it brings them closer to God. Who am I to stop the progress? I'm not stopping God's plan, so I always do it anyway because I know my heart is good. I'm not worried about it. You feel what I'm saying? That's how he works. I don't look and go, oh, but that person, if it's on your heart, you should do it. Simple as that. But let's keep rocking and rolling, man.
So, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Let me see. How would you respond if women say the women who say they fear that sharing their husband would diminish their value, what we talked about just a minute ago.
Okay, well, first off, I think just the question of how do you share your husband makes it, and I know it's not what you meant, but this is a question that gets asked many, many times, is the concept of you owning your husband in the first place and you owning him as a commodity to decide on where he is shared. Because if that is the way that you see your husband, it doesn't even matter if the topic of polygyny is never on the table. As a woman, you're always going to be fighting against insecurities. Because at the end of the day, you share your man with colleagues. You share your man with other men. You
Right.
share him eventually with your children.
Right.
So the sharing of a person that you're committed to for the rest of your life is going to be there. I think it all comes down to that internal value, because most women would say it's about sharing their husband, but I think it's an excuse most of the times, because it's more about, once again, about themselves. If women
Now, you heard what she said. It's usually an excuse when a woman says, oh, so I'm supposed to share my husband? My wife shares me with my children, like she said, my coworkers, you guys, when I'm streaming. My wife shares me with everybody. So it stops at a woman? This is the part of the control. This is the control, fellas. And I'm just grateful that my wife is not like that. Hear me out, y'all. One of the best things I ever heard my wife say. If you can love this woman the way you love me, the same way you see I deserve it, I see she deserves it. And it would be an honor for me to see my sister properly being loved by a good man versus some dirtbag in the street. Just saying. Let's keep rocking and rolling.
are truly honest, most of our emotional turmoil is never about the other person, it's about ourselves.
Yep.
And unfortunately, this is the truth. I'm not saying that we can never get out of it or grow out of it, but it's a growth process. Women are not naturally unselfish.
Yep.
Women are not naturally virtuous. It's something we have to.
Did you hear what she said? Women are not naturally unselfish. They're not naturally virtuous women. I'm gonna let her continue to break that down though.
And it's something that we even have to be aware of, the lack of that virtue in us, because otherwise we're never going to work towards that point. So that whole internal value thing is now just hooked onto the concept of monogamy.
Yep.
Somebody 20 years ago saw value in you and decided that they're going to put, as the secular world said, put a ring on the finger and claim you as theirs. But in the back of your mind, as a woman, if you're truly honest, as life goes on, you're definitely not as beautiful as you were at 20 years old.
Facts.
I looked at the picture you posted in our thumbnail, Rob, and ironically, that was 10 years ago, was the day before I delivered Kriston. And I'm like, I definitely don't look the same anymore, but I've gained so much other things. But you're never going to be the same as the woman you married 20 years ago with the same face, the same body.
Now you heard what she said? Fellas, a woman is never gonna look the same way she looked when you first met her. When you first meet her, that's probably the best she's ever gonna look. And most women are in denial of that. This is the reason why I always tell you fellas, when you get with a woman when she's younger, this is the natural process. As you get older, you will always still see that gorgeous young woman in your wife. You don't see what other people see. You see what you saw. That is the part of it. But you see what she said? Most women aren't virtuous if they're not paying attention. But ready? But I told you guys in the beginning, you can only reach a woman to her deepest or her highest level of understanding. So if she doesn't understand much, how are you going to reach her? But it helps that my wife can reach this woman. You feel what I'm saying? Because she's a woman. Woman on woman, it's more relatable. Let's keep rocking and rolling.
You're gonna be a different type of woman as soon as you become a mother, because that's the one thing that can force a woman very quickly to move from a selfish place to an unselfish place when it comes to your children.
A child will change a woman's life. If she was a selfish woman before, a child will change her life. Literally, the minute the baby goes, wah, it's over. Selfish is out the window.
You're going to be a different person in the way you experience adventures and joy. So there's so much that changes throughout just a normal good marriage. That women walk in the back of their minds, that internal dialogue, they walk around with that fear of saying, if my husband knows now, if he knows now what he's experienced with me for the last 20 years, would he still have made the same decision 20 years ago? Or does he still feel he's a righteous man, he made that decision, he's just stuck with me? And that is something that a woman needs to ask themselves. If you feel like your man is just stuck with you, great, you married a great guy, you can trust him that he's going to stick with you till the day you die. But is there something that you can work on to make sure that the investment that he made 20 years ago is still a good investment today, and it's got the prospects of being a good investment 20 years from now?
Did you hear what she said? She said, and I think that goes both ways. Does the man that is with you, like my wife knows, she's my wife. She's irreplaceable. And I've made sure I made that clear to her. And she's made it clear to me. But like she said, most women they don't even get that level of security from you as a man. But it's a great thing. But it's also my wife's job to make sure that the investment I'm making into her for a lifetime is worth it. And she does a fantastic job on reminding me every day, me being with her is the best thing that ever happened to me. Straight up. Straight up. And me desiring another woman and having another wife has nothing to do with me desiring her less. It has nothing to do with that. Nothing.
But the second part of that equation is the fact that a woman very rarely reaches the point that she really is vulnerable with her husband. And it comes back to that whole trust and submission point. Because what happens as a woman that's been married for 20 years, your husband comes to you and say, I know I'm convicted that I need to take on a second wife because I'm capable of leading more than just you and our kids. What happens then? Then you have to deal with the truth of saying that once off, you're not being replaced. He's not divorcing you to marry another woman. It's a whole different concept. Is the fact that he thinks he's able to lead more than one diminishing your value? Or have you been such a valuable asset in his life that he actually has the ability and the energy to say, you know what, I can do this again? Because people need to realize when a man takes a second woman into his marriage, remember that process starts again
all over
with that new wife.
Fellas, hear me. Like she said, yes, my wife is my wife. But me taking on another woman, it's me starting all over again. everything I had to break down with my wife to get her to where she's at now, I'm gonna have to do it with the new wife. Difference is, now I have my wife to help me push this wife along. It's the benefit of teaching your wife, because my job and your job as men is to cultivate our women, wash our women with the word. Y'all ain't listening to me.
He might be a little bit older, he might be a little bit more wiser, he might be a little bit more patient than he was with his wife of his youth, but it's still going to be a process of taking that woman from the value that's there, because no righteous man wants to take a woman that has no value.
Listen, y'all, hold up. I gotta bring this just a smidge back. Hold up. Pay attention, please.
Man wants to take a woman that has no value. It shouldn't be there. But that value is still untapped. It's like a piece of granite that needs to be chipped away until you reach that point where you can see the uniqueness. But he has to take that on, and he has to start from the beginning and carve out that piece of rock. But if he's done that now, he's taken on that second wife, and he has the ability to take care of them, but he doesn't want to get rid of you because he actually loves who you are. He has been with you for the last 20 years. You've got history together. He has seen the best and he has seen the worst of you, but he depends on you for your wisdom that he's built into you as well in the last 20 years. Then that fear of actually having a husband, being able to make that decision of having another woman in his life, but he's not getting rid of you. It takes away that fear, because the logic says he had the chance to exchange me for another wife. He didn't. He just added to what we've been building for the last 20 years. Like,
did you hear what she just said? She literally, fellas, this is a fact, fellas. If I wanted to get rid of my wife and not be with her, I could have been done that. So how stupid would she be to be like, he's gonna replace me? How stupid would my wife be to be like, he's gonna replace me and he's gonna love somebody else more than me? I could have been did that. I don't need to marry. I don't need to pick up somebody else to have done that to you already. That's stupid. That would be a waste of time.
Like that. I really like that viewpoint. Thank you for sharing that. Some like people also said to me, like when I was just dating Rob and telling them about his viewpoints, they were like, yeah, but you must have very low self-esteem to even like consider this, right? Like how can you have self-esteem and like think of yourself as valuable and then do this? But I thought about it, and I thought it was ironic because, I mean, if anything, it would give me more self-esteem, because I really, like you just talked about, like I have to go back to what am I bringing to the table? Like he married me too for a reason, and he loves me for a reason. He loves me who I am, and God made me in a unique way, and he made you in a unique way, and he made all of us. So it means that even if he wanted to replace me, he couldn't. There's no other person like me on the whole planet.
Right.
And that is actually beautiful, because another person would just add to your family, and she has other qualities that I don't have. And that, like, I think that actually, it makes you actually even more aware of like, okay, so it's not that I'm not valuable. Okay, what am I bringing to?
So did you hear what she said? And she's speaking facts. Do you know how powerful it is when my wife said, we got to take this woman on? That means that my wife saw something in her that not only benefits her, but benefits my wife and benefits me. We all win. So women, like she said, plenty of women will be like, oh, you insecure if you want to deal with a man and he has another wife. No, it makes you're more secure. Listen, I told you guys, for my wife to say, I wish more women had a man like you. When she told me that, bro, talking about putting a battery in my back, nigga, I thought I was I thought, nigga, listen, hear me out. She completely removed me to the status of the only person above me is God. For her to feel like if another woman could ever have a man that loves me, guides me, shows me, teaches me the way you do to me, it would be an honor. I was like, wow. Do you not understand how she has made herself irreplaceable? One of many ways that she's done so. Let's keep going.
The table. Why am I valuable? What is it that we share that is so valuable too?
Yeah, I really do think that actually makes you more valuable, because if you can get past the emotions, the jealousy, whatever it is, the fear of what other people will think, all the things you have to go through to get to a place where you're like, okay, if this is what God's leading you to do, I'm on board. That makes you extremely rare. I mean, most women are not, they're going to fight against it. They're going to be jealous, rebellious. They may leave. So and I think for me, I look back at previous relationships where I was a monogamy only guy. Of course I was raised in this country. I just believed it. I didn't question it. But I knew I was always wrestling with these feelings. And maybe on some level, I think I maybe resented the girls because it was like they caged me. It wasn't they didn't do it on purpose. They just were bought into the monogamy only lie too.
Right.
And yeah, maybe somewhere deep down, I feel like I resented because they took away this right of mine that I had, this freedom that I had that I couldn't express ethically because no one had ever told me a way to do it. And I see a lot of men do that, and then they just, they live with guilt and shame, and it becomes this vicious cycle, and it really keeps them, at least what they feel, distant from God, because they feel like there's something wrong with them. They're broken. They're a piece of crap for having these feelings, versus just saying, no, this is actually pretty normal, and here's the ethical way to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I think Rob, your internal reaction to that and the resentment of what's going to be expected of you is, I think the fact that you signing into that agreement of what a marriage looks like according to monogamy only, you go into it with the idea of, but you are not in control of that relationship, because there's certain prerequisites that comes with it.
Yep.
That was a man-made doctrine, and you agreeing to be a part of that is, like you said, it feels like you caged yourself. And yes, people can only focus on the sexual part of it.
Did you hear what she said, fellas? See, and for the ladies who are watching this is what you don't understand. When a man marries you monogamously, he is caging himself, because the laws force a man. Anything happens, you get half, you get the house, you get the man is forced. You are forcing him into a cage that you don't understand. And most men getting married today, they are caging themselves. They just don't know it. They just don't know it. And the way she described it was perfect. It was perfect. That most men, they're voluntarily marrying and they're saying, cage me. They're being willing to cage themselves. And guess what? Most men, 77% of divorce ends. So now what happens is this: men are willing to jump into marriage and women still leave them. How stupid does that sound? It's crazy.
It's almost like both sides, the liberal side as well as the conservative side, would only want to focus on the sexual part. Because I mean, that's all we're made of. That's what we do from the moment we wake up to the moment we sleep.
That's all women care about.
Obviously not. That's not the case.
Sexing another woman.
Part of your
Stupid.
covenant, absolutely, but there's so much more to it. But I think it's the fact that you knew as a man that you are too strong to bow down to a system and to a woman that you're going to voluntarily say, yes, I volunteer myself as a person that's going to lay down my life for you, and you are in control of where the ship goes. That is where I think the resentment maybe came out towards the woman.
It's a fact. For a man to get married in today's day with the way marriage laws are, you're marrying a woman and you're voluntarily telling her, you control my life. That's a fact. That's a fact.
Because they expected this of you, because this is what they were sold. It's also a story that they were sold, that this is the only option for a high value woman, is to catch a high value man that is now willing to say, I'm not going to be as valuable because I'm going to put all of your needs, emotional, physical, all of that ahead of my personal mission on this earth. And that's exactly what monogamy does. That's why you resented it, probably.
Yeah. And I wasn't even conscious of it, but that's exactly what it was. And, you know, even when Sana and I first started talking, I was posting a lot about polygyny, and she was like, you know, we were moving toward marriage, and she's like, you know, kind of asked me not to do it, said it hurts my feelings, you know, when you're talking so much about it. So I scaled it back, and I even got to the point where I was actually looking at other things I could do career-wise, because I still had the coaching program. It was in the beginning stages, and I just was so depressed. I remember there was many days where I just would have to lay down in the middle of the day because I was off my mission. I let her feelings supersede what God told me to do, which was to expose this lie. And it made me depressed because
it's a fact. Fellas, my wife in the beginning was the same way. Fellas, I love my wife. I always take her feelings into consideration. But her feelings does not supersede the mission. If it means her being mad and me completing the mission I'm called to do, she's gonna be mad. Same as Dr. Miles Monroe. Dr. Miles Monroe, the pastor, he said, if somebody called me because somebody needed prayer because somebody's dying in the hospital, and he said, and if my wife called me because she needs me in the house, I guess we're having a funeral. You missed it. If somebody's calling him because somebody's dying and they need prayer, XYZ, but his wife calls him, we're having a funeral. His wife comes before the family that needs prayer. This is biblical, y'all. The problem is you guys don't read. My wife is my priority. So if I have multiple wives, those are my priority.
I wasn't, you know, doing what God told me to do. It really kind of almost goes back to the garden, right? Because Adam got a mission, he got some instructions from God, but then his wife kind of stepped in and he took her feelings into account and kind of, you know, so I see a lot of that.
That's crazy. He literally said it's like Adam and Eve. God gave him the mission. God gave him the word. God never spoke to the woman. God told him to do this, do this, do this, do this, do that. He never told her anything. But because Adam took his wife's word or whatever, her feelings into consideration, look what happened. Nothing supersedes the mission.
Interesting. I don't remember who said it, but he said basically there's only one reason why a woman wouldn't do that, like a first wife wouldn't do this, and it's really jealousy. It boils down to jealousy, and jealousy doesn't come from God, I don't believe. You know, and I think about the great need when you see the great.
Let me give you an example of this wonderful young lady that my wife brought to my attention, right? So she told my wife, oh, I don't want to destroy what you guys have. You know, I love y'all guys. Y'all couple is amazing. XYZ. And my wife had to just flat out like, you can't destroy what I built. You can't destroy something that I'm giving you access to. Because my wife knows anybody else but me taking care of this woman, they would destroy her. Sweetheart, young, vibrant, full of life. Any other man would take advantage of this. But you put me in front of this young woman, and I could sit here, and her life will turn out to be something so much more than she could have ever imagined.
Need of in this country and even in the world of women needing a covering, the imbalance of Christian women to men, and when Christian women hold on to this monogamy only, it's like, it's almost like that verse that says, if you see your brother in need and you say, be warm and well fed, but you don't do anything for him, mm-hmm. It's like you're the one that's in sin, because you had the opportunity to do something for him and you didn't do it.
And that's what I said earlier about the homeless person. Not every homeless person you see, you're gonna get that feeling. But some of them you see and you're like, man, I should really give them the $2 that I have. Give it to them. Because if you can, you're supposed to. Because if not, you're gonna be in sin. Not me.
Right. So it is very selfish on some level when you see the need, and you just cling to this tradition that is very unbiblical.
Yeah. I want to add to that, Rob. You mentioned.
Remember, he said it's and it's wrong, especially if a woman sees a need. See, if my wife may have saw a need, like, hold up, I gotta do this. Maybe my wife saw something. Pay attention.
A lot of people think the only thing that is the biggest challenge is the jealousy. So I do think for most women, jealousy is a massive part of their upbringing as little girls and how they function in the group. And I'm speaking just for myself, jealousy was never a big part of my story in my life. I think I was just so independent, and really I could care less about what the group was doing, and I really just had my own independence and the path that I was walking. My biggest thing is, and I think this is two things, if we don't recognize the other one in our blind spot is competition, then there's going to be challenges there that we don't see coming. So jealousy, yes, is a massive thing, but we need to realize jealousy is a part of life for everybody. Women, men, children, kids fighting for attention with their parents because it's a natural part of their upbringing until we learn how to control jealousy. Jealousy was part of the biblical story. That's how Satan came to be Satan, was because of jealousy. So it's a story that's never going to be out of the picture. It's what we do with that jealousy, and if we're honest enough in saying, where does the jealousy come from? So that's the first part. With our story, I would say jealousy wasn't a big issue. It was the competition, and the reason I say competition is, in Aubrey and my story, he was the first man I ever committed to. He was actually the first man I've ever kissed in my life. So I've never had anybody else. So I understood my value enough to say, yes, I'm going to commit this person, and I'm handing over my hand into his. But in my mind, I waited until I saw a man that kind of matched me with all of these aspects of my personality that I knew was my strengths. So
what she's about to explain is called competition. It's called competition anxiety. All women go through this, fellas. But the problem is this: too many women feel they shouldn't have to compete for a man. This is the reason why most women will never get married and will always be single, because they feel, I'm me. I'm not competing for no man. You have to compete for everything in life, even your man. So like she said, most women don't take account for the blind spot. But the beauty is this: my wife has removed the competition. And in fact, my wife rather teach the person we bring in than make that person fight for the information which they should be given.
In the back of my mind, I was still in competition with him
See?
because we're equal. Even
Yep.
though he's a man, I'm a woman.
Even fellas, even with you, she's explaining it. Sometimes your wife may feel like y'all on the same playing field, fellas. You could be, fellas. Hear me, fellas. Listen to me. You could have got fired from your job, and she could be making $1 million a year. You are still higher than her. Why? That's how God designed it to be. And no matter how much she tries to put pressure to make you feel like she's above you, she could never do it.
We're
She would get burnout.
equal. We're raised that way. There's no difference really between boys and girls, and that's the trouble we're living today. There's
Yep.
massive differences.
Yep,
And
massive.
I needed to get the point, and that's the part that I struggled with the most when the polygyny concept came up, is because I had to go back to my Bible and reread everything to say, if I read this with the idea that I can't even compete with Aubrey because I'm not his equal, what does that mean for me? You mean I'm not the same as him in your eyes? And it was a hard pill to swallow because I'm a very competitive person by nature. I mean, I went into emergency medicine. I can compete with the best of them out there. And just on that point, I'm submissive to my man. I'm not submissive to any man out there. So that's an important topic that we can discuss at a later stage. But to get back to the competition, I had to realize there's no way for me to compete with Aubrey because I'm a woman. I was born a woman. He
Yep.
was born a man. I can bring my strengths that he will never be able to do because he's not a woman, but he can
Yep.
do things that I am never able to do.
Yep.
And the topic that highlighted that, at that stage we were together 20 years because we were courting for 4 years before we got married. That's the only topic that finally broke that misconception of us being equal in front of my Heavenly Father's throne. It's the only thing. And I've lived my whole life as a Bible believer. I didn't come to repentance later in life. I lived my life with a Bible in my hand since birth. But I had such a misconception in that. And what that allowed to happen in my life is I missed so many years of that not living in truth of the purpose with what I was created. Because I was created a woman, I've got a different purpose than Aubrey. I've got a beautiful set of tools to work with that he doesn't necessarily have. And some men with their purpose in life, they're going to need one woman to come and take a look and see what is needed on that table. But some men have such a high personal mission and testimony that they need to live out in this life. Sometimes they need more than one. Maybe they need more than two as helpmeets to let him reach that certain point. But the beauty of all of that is it allowed me to get to a point to actually understand what my value was. And it wasn't a external validation from parents that was so proud because I always made the right decisions. It wasn't an external validation from people at university that looked up because I made the right choices. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke. All of these things that can be seen as validation of being a successful person that understands their value, but it's all external validation. It's not an internal validation of knowing that you are acting in virtue because you actually understand your role of why you were brought into this earth as well.
I thought we had Jolene in the waiting room for a second. She just left. I was about to.
Busy with the kids probably, so I can be here uninterrupted.
Right. Okay.
See?
Somebody had an interest.
So her sister wife was gonna call in, but she's probably busy with the kids, like she said. So that way she could be free to do the interview.
Comment I just put on the screen, kind of echoing what you said. Some men can be a husband of 3 women. Some men can be a husband of 7 women. A few, rare, don't you love me enough or whatever. And he said, well, why when we're family planning do you talk about having more than one child? Does it mean you don't love that one child enough? No, because he said, you have to understand that God gave you.
Okay, let me see. We have a few questions here, but I'm seeing like what I wanna do for you. Even though Rob told me not to read those, but I'm I'm not gonna be submissive this way. Let me see. Oh, I do like this one. what advice do you have for women who okay, what advice do you have for women who consider polygyny or plural marriage but are hesitant because of the societal judgment?
I think that answer can go for another 3 hours, so I'll try to
We're gonna do this
kind of
last
slim it
part.
down. The societal judgment, I think, let's start with we'll work it backwards. The societal judgment is actually a massive part, because even while we're sitting discussing here, we need to realize there's a small handful of people that are so grateful that somebody is brave enough to actually talk about this and come out of the woods. Because I mean, one of the things I think Andrew Wilson's wife maybe I've said, or it was one of the other co-hosts, to say, but where have you ever seen this work? Where have you seen successful polygynous marriages? And the answer is you wouldn't, because the people are actually living their lives. They're making a success of their families. They're leaving legacies. It's definitely not the successful people that end up.
And this is the truth. A lot of people that have been living polygynous lives, you will never hear about them. You will never hear about the successes because they don't talk about it. So yes, people like him, them, Rambo, me, that come out and we speak on it, we are helping people that actually do practice, or they thinking about practicing, come forward and speak.
Reality TV show made about them. So it's a flawed statement in the first part, but I've been able to meet beautiful families in the last few years where the women are amazing, empowered, confident, so individual type of personalities that have lived 30 years as 3 wives to 1 man,
Right.
With great success and a beautiful story and so many great testimonies of what they've done in other people's lives.
Yep.
So there's so many people just waiting for this topic to being brought to the light without so much judgment from the outside.
Yes.
Then you've got the group on the one side, the biblical conservative way of seeing, been indoctrinated by the monogamy only indoctrination that came from churches, not from the Bible, that really see this as obviously sin. And I'm not here to defend my biblical point of view. That's definitely not my place, and I don't want to do that. I don't have to defend my biblical point of view, but that's the one group. Then you've got the other group on the other side. That is the liberal way of seeing the world, the feministic point of view. And the irony of all of this is, as a first wife that is living a plural marriage or a plural covenant, and as a person that is independent, is qualified, you kind of stand outside of either of those groups. Because the irony is that the conservative side, the allegation is that you're probably such an abused wife that your husband is just stepping out and acting out sexual desires, and you're not strong enough to have said no and to walk away. That's the one side.
Right.
The other side is the feminist, and the irony is that they say, well, you're the one that's living out this old school patriarchal submissive role of a woman, and it means you're less value than a man. The irony is both sides are being oppressive to me as an independent woman with my own agency that is living this life with informed consent, as voluntary as you get it, but the beauty that have come out of it because I'm not tied.
I gotta read this, y'all. There's a comment in the comment section that says, what would you say to my wife, Sharon, who put her foot down against polygyny for us? Grow some balls. We don't gotta tell her anything. We gotta tell you. Grow some balls. See? I told y'all fellas, there are some men who their wives run their lives. That's crazy to me.
Down by doctrines of men, as well as liberal ways of seeing what a woman can be. That's the part with the societal things. And I realize doing this publicly what the controversy can be, because it comes from both sides. That's the problem. There's very rarely topics that can irritate a polarized group as much as this topic.
Hold on, this wasn't
As you
the thing.
cover the spectacle, it's something you can reach, and it's a valid point. I don't think it leads to legacy building. I don't think it leads to happiness. I think it leads to loneliness. I think it leads to burn. Because if I think back now, I really kind
It's easy to talk because you're 5 years down the road, and you can say
This
like,
is
oh well,
it.
for us
Last
it works
part.
fine, right? But would you do you feel there's like a role you played yourself there too? Like, because I'm gonna say like women are way better at relationships and like nurturing relationships and being intuitive and more emotional intelligent than men are. Do you feel there's like things that you did to help Aubrey get there, for example, or to build
Pay
the
attention.
family structure that you have now?
Pay attention.
Whew, I need to think about that one. I would say the honest truth would be I don't know if I did. Because if I think back now, I really kind of just reached the point this last year to say that I'm in full support of who Aubrey is in my life. That I think a lot of it, maybe I made it easier in some sense because I wasn't fighting with the sense of jealousy and losing something. But the bigger picture, I've gotten to the point in the last year that I think now I'm excited for the 5 years that awaits us of this point that I've reached as a woman and who I am, that I'm excited to say, I've kind of dealt with a lot of these little thorns that was stuck still in me. I want to see where I reach that point. What I can say is, and this is one of the benefits of a polygynous marriage, is that Jolene is such a beautiful person. But I mean, Aubrey said she's naive. The world would have chewed her up because she's got such a good heart, and she didn't necessarily always see the value of her as a woman. If it wasn't for both Aubrey and myself recognizing that in her.
Did you hear? So this is what my wife said to me. This young woman that she brought to my attention is so good-hearted that if the world was to get her, they would chew her up to the point that I can tell she would be unrecognizable. Listen to what she said, y'all. Please. Please.
Jolene is such a beautiful person, but I mean, Aubrey said she's naive. The world would have chewed her up
Yep.
because she's got such a good heart, and she didn't necessarily always see the value of her as a woman. If it wasn't for both Aubrey and myself
Now, yes, that's what my wife said. I don't think she understands. She understood the benefit of what we're trying to do. Made a lot of sense. And coming from a woman, and I told her too, I was like, yeah, because once the world gets her, it's not that she can go out there, experience the world's gonna tear her down, and then come back and I'm gonna take her with open arms. That's not gonna happen either, because now I have to undo what the world has already done. And that's unfair to me, and it's unfair to her. But listen,
that in her and say, you know what? We rather want to draw you into our little safe camp
right.
and take care of you and have a safe haven for you to realize that potential that we see in you already. As a wife that's 13 years older than her,
Right.
maybe it was easier for me to see some of those struggles as a young woman, but we're going to provide the space, and you're going to have the luxury of having people support you to reach that point where you actually understand your value. So it's very easy for people to look inwards now and say, yes, we get along very well. Our personalities gel, but I think it's a blessing from above. Absolutely, I understand that, because it could have been different. Our Heavenly Father could have added somebody that challenged us both every single day to get to that next level. But I do think there's we're not we're not people that are puppets in a vindictive God's hands either. He wants us to enjoy this life, but he wants us to be conscious of the decisions we take. So obviously, when we're looking at people that can be added to our family unit, we look at it consciously to say, there's certain strengths in that person, we can see how it can add, how
Right.
they can be value to us,
Right.
even though they don't realize it yet. We
Yep.
can see it, and we would rather draw them in because we know we can be a safe space, because we've been blessed to say we've dealt with all of these mundane things. Now we can start building on that.
Now, that is a big part, because whether she may not see it, but my wife sees it. My wife sees it. And that's key, because sometimes it's almost like mentorship in a way. My wife can see things that she's going through and work her through it, and know that she's safe with us, because this young lady is such a beautiful young lady inside and out. But if the world gets a hold of her, they're gonna chew her up and spit her out, and then there's no coming back from that. Definitely not for me. But listen, I'm gonna leave it there for you guys. Thank you for everybody tuning in. You know, I'm gonna continue part 2 of this another time. And yeah, this is exciting. This was great. And this is very real, y'all. This is how biblical polygyny is supposed to be practiced. But I see y'all on the flip side. Thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate everybody. See y'all next time. Michael May. 1.